Locked in a three-way war, devils, angels, and those that have fallen from God's good graces battle for the survival of their race. A war that'll leave each side with scars that will never heal. While many of us know High School DxD not for its story, behind all the attempts to draw attention is a truly captivating narrative, one that follows a boy, desperate to find love, who coincidentally becomes roped in an ancient war for supremacy over the universe itself. Believe it or not, this is the story of High School DxD. In a realm where time lacks meaning for the immortal, the three great factions, angels, devils, and fallen angels, have always faced small skirmishes, battles solved in a matter of weeks. But this time, total war envelops these lands, yet no victor came from this conflict. God was slain, forcing St. Michael to take the throne of heaven. A large cover-up campaign was put into place to avoid losing believers to their cause. The devils lost their 4 great saint and leaders, and of the 72 royal pillar families that made up their kind, half were eradicated, their race too, facing extinction if the war was to continue. As for the fallen angels, their place in the conflict was always a tad unique. Angels that had walked off the path set out by God would find their wings turning black, their place in heaven taken from them. In lust for vengeance and power, they joined as the third force in this war, and lost just as much as the rest, though they faced the extinction of their kind just as the others do. There were factions that wished to continue to the very last man. One fallen angel, Azazel, stepped up to claim they would seek diplomacy with their opposition, the angels, devils, and fallen eventually reaching a peace deal. The war had been put to a halt, though the end of the conflict wasn't met with celebration. With as much as they lost, the only thing on the people's mind was to rebuild. 4 new great saintans are crowned. Azazel claims the seat as Governor General of the fallen angels, and St. Michael attempts to bring order back to the kingdom of heaven. In desperation to bring numbers back to their population, the devils and angels would turn to the people of earth as candidates for their ranks. Angels of high nobility would use a system named brave saints, or in the case of the devils, evil pieces, systems akin to the games chess and cards. These groups would go out seeking humans and non-humans with great power dormant within them, a power given the title Sacred Gears. Given that the fallen angels had no such system, there were groups bitter and angry of the devils and angels' accumulation of power, with the governing system still trying to resettle after the war. Many fallen sub-factions would be created, their kind focused on the seizing of power to fulfill their desires. Some fallen would go to Earth in a quest to kill off humans that could prove a threat, while harvesting the sacred gears of others. Whether it be from the mouth of angels or the temptation of the fallen, a handful of humans had come to learn about the sacred gears system. Of such note were members of the Holy Church. Once gaining knowledge of the power they could seize, the church would begin what became known as the Holy Sword Project. A priest named Valper would work on artificially creating Holy Sword users, young orphans becoming his lab rats. The results that came from the test were considered inconclusive, and in order to hide their crimes against humanity committed on these children, those beneath Valper were instructed with gassing the children and disposing of their corpses. In the chaos of the massacre, a lone boy was able to escape the church, fleeing through the woods that in the dead of winter were caked in white powder snow. While he was able to successfully flee, the poison he had ingested was quickly setting in. As he fell to his knees in the snow, a young girl with crimson red hair and blue-green eyes stood before him. In his final moments, he wished to live. Thus, the girl granted his request. The lone survivor of the Holy Sword Project became Rias Gremory's first knight. Rias Gremory is a sister to one of the 4 great saints. Her desire is to forge a path of her own, creating a peerage of evil pieces to assist her in her rise up the social ladder. Not as an individual who leans on their family in high places, but as one who can be seen as an equal. Her house consists of quite the odd assortment of members. There is her knight Kiba, the boy saved from death's door, a wizard with the sword and bearer of the sacred gear's sword birth, a fallen angel-devil hybrid Akeno, who became her queen, saved from a dark spot in her life after her shrine maiden mother was murdered by people of the church while her father was away. Koneko, a Nekomata yokai lost without purpose, became her rook. Gasper Vlad, a vampire with the ability to stop time around him, became her bishop, though he would be locked away until he learned to control his powers, as he proved a danger to others and himself. Rhea still held 8 pawns, a bishop, rook, and knight before she had a full house. The girl was meticulous with her picks, and would choose to save them until someone worthy of taking her family's side appeared. Thus, time went on, and Rhea attended high school at Kuo Academy, a place that would double as her base of operations, shared with the other devil family Citri. Together, in a shared goal, the two families would work cooperatively, fetching contracts with humans, a devil's way of attaining social power, similar to an angel's quest to obtain prayer and faith. Not long after Rias' entry into the academy, Kuo would open its doors to male students, marking its second year as a co-ed academy on Rias' third year. A boy of particular note would catch your eye within these halls, one containing within him power of unimaginable scale, power that once rivaled God himself. There was a story often told by those that had fought on the battlefield during the Great War, a legend known by many, a story of the Welsh and Vanishing Dragon's ferocious battle that put the fighting between factions on hold as they all attempted to contain the destruction of the two dragons. Their strength was too fierce even for the armies of heaven and hell. All they could do was seal the beast, meaning one day they would return to finish their grudge against one another. Since that day, the Vanishing Dragon Albion and Welsh Dragon Drake would pass their power down to unsuspecting humans, to one day awaken to, and as fate would have it, challenge one another and relive the battle of the ages. For decades, this process continued with no clear victor between the white and the Welsh. Until now, the boy Issei Hyodo, bearer of the sacred gear of the Welsh dragon, has become a target of both desire and contempt. The Red Dragon Emperor has become Rias' newest covet. Issei's what you would call a loser. He doesn't have any ambitions besides ogling at girls, the sole reason he applied for the newly co-ed Kuo Academy, and he doesn't believe any girl would ever want to date him. Thus his status as member of the perverted trio, who do everything in their power to ruin their social status, is sealed. It's an unfulfilling life, but it's what he's living. That is until a girl named Yuma asks him on a date after school, giving him a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to become a normal person. It's just too bad that it was all a setup, and Yuma is in fact a fallen angel, sent to kill Issei for the danger that lurks within him, the sacred gear of the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei, as a normal human being, has no clue what any of this means, and for the most part is stun-locked by the girl in front of him, his shock only heightened when she impales him with a spear of light, leaving him to die in his own pool of blood. He laments of the fact he'll never know the warmth of another human's body pressed against his own, when the image of Rias Gremory appears in his mind. As his vision begins to give out, he can still see the girl standing over him. He brushes it off as a vision as his world grows dark, and Issei's life as a human comes to a close. Issei's first thought waking up in his own bed was that everything around the date was all a dream. Yet he can feel the warmth of another person to his left, making it clear something most definitely happened the night before. On the way to school, Rias explains that Issei now belongs to her as a servant, and the reasoning for their nakedness this morning was to heal him of his wounds, a thought process that goes back to the feudal times of Europe, where they believed the warmth of a maiden could heal all wounds. This explanation, however, doesn't really carry much weight when trying to explain the state Issei's mother found them, but it would seem as a devil, Rias also has the ability to charm, his parents more than accepting of their son finally feeling the warm embrace of another. As they enter the halls, they part ways for the time being, Issei given clear instructions to come to the occult research club after school. Citri's own household head, Sona, seems a little apprehensive of Issei's inclusion into Rias' peerage, but knowing the girl, she must have some plan in mind for the boy. Though looking down upon him, it's hard to say what exactly. Escorted by Kiba, Issei is brought to the Gremory House's base of operations, introduced to the other members, Akeno and Koneko, and told of his status as a low-ranking devil, giving him ambition to climb the ranks and one day become his own house leader. Issei latches onto this idea as his motivation that will carry him through the hardship that awaits him. For now, though, he's instructed with the simple task of carrying out contracts with humans, a task which can be both difficult and tedious depending on the user. To be completely honest, there's a lot Issei still lacks in understanding, like the persistent hunt he finds himself prey to. The fallen angels yet again track the boy down in an attempt to kill him, and in desperation to live, Issei awakens a fraction of his power, summoning his sacred boosted gear. The fallen angel retreats for the time being, off to report this finding back to command, and Issei goes about the rest of his night, That is, until the next day, when he makes friends with a priestess. Asia, having been transferred to a church within this town as a punishment for healing a devil with her power, a sacred gear that uses healing magic, stumbles into yet another devil, and the two spark a friendship. Issei shows her the path to the church she must go to, and returns to school to report this to Rias. His master scolds him for getting involved with a member of the church, their kind potentially dangerous even in these times of peace following the Great War. Regardless of this new friendship, danger seems to follow the boy wherever he goes. On his typical devil contract route that same day, he stumbles upon a trail of blood within the contact's house. In a crumbled mess before him lies the man he should be meeting. Meaning the voice that now greets him is that of an exorcist of the church, one with a lust for blood and carnage. As he attacks Issei, Agia returns to the room after putting up a barrier as instructed. It becomes clear that the church he had been sent to at some point became compromised, similar to the blasphemy that took place during Valper's Holy Sword project. This priest church has fallen under the control of desire and murderous intent. Freed threatens to violate Agia if she doesn't continue to blindly serve them. Issei attempts to step in and stop him, but he still lacks enough power to stand up against others. He's only saved by the arrival of the other members of House Gremory, though they are forced to leave Agia behind, as she's not a member of their house and cannot travel by their magic. With his weakness being put on full display, Issei knows he must do everything in his power to grow stronger. However, pull-ups won't exactly help him against the inhumans he'll face. Miraculously, Agia has been let free for the day and greets Issei in the park, which is something that should raise a red flag in Issei's mind, but the relief he feels for her safety clouds his better judgment, and they spend the day together. As the afternoon approaches evening, a familiar face makes their appearance. Yuma, better known as Rainier the Fallen, has come to collect Agia for the ritual that is to take place this evening. She toys with the boy, gravely wounding him, but leaving him alive to fester in his own powerlessness to stop her. Yet again, he fails to save his friend, and this time, there may not be another opportunity to free her. Returning to the house, he begs Rias to rescue Agia from the Fallen, but given the outstanding peace treaty, there are rules of engagement they must follow when confronting the opposing factions. She cannot, as a house leader, barge into the Fallen church, but her underlings on the other hand could. She leaves these seeds of direction for Kiba and Koneko to understand, the two explaining to Issei. Rias is practically instructing them to go as a trio to the church, while Rias and Akeno handle the litigation. From the framework outlined in the treaty, there's a clause stating that the factions will not perform illicit actions in territory belonging to another, and it just so happens this town falls under the Devil's jurisdiction, and the Fallen's ritual to forcibly remove Agia's sacred gear is an action they cannot allow. With that, the Devils make their move, Akeno and Rias taking care of the pair of Fallen in the outer perimeter, while the other three move inwards. They're first faced with the Dark Priest Freed, who flees the scene after sensing his inability to win here today. Moving downwards into the basement where Agia is chained to a cross, it's clear the group is much too late. The ritual has already begun, and the gear has been removed from her body. Without it, Agia's life is forfeit. Anger, grief, it all rushes over Issei. His comrades cover his advance as he rushes to free Agia's limp body. He takes her from the basement up to the chapel, laying her upon a pew. With a little life still within her, she thanks Issei for the one day they got to spend together, before passing on to what lies next for her. Yuma mocks Issei's tears for the priestess, throwing spears of light into his thighs, grounding him in place. She continues to taunt him as a weakling, when the desperation to punish the woman who took the life from a girl so innocent evolves Issei's powers yet again. When the cards are stacked against you, and there's nothing to lose, there are infinite possibilities waiting for you to take action. Issei raises his hand against the girl who gave him his first date, plucking the wings of this fallen angel, grounding them to the earth's crust. Rias enters the chapel and congratulates her pawn on defeating his past. Yuma becomes desperate, sensing the walls closing in, and tries to appeal to Issei like she did on their first date. He looks down upon the fallen in pity, but not enough to think of sparing this creature from retribution. He asks his master to remove her from this world. The fallen angel is annihilated by the crimson flames of the Gremory air. Only the feathers from her wings remain, whirling around from the force of the flame's emissions. Rias takes the sacred gear from the ash of the fallen angel, returning them to the priestess, and reviving her to this world, not back to her life as a member of the church, but as her second bishop. Issei looks to his master in admiration of her sheer compassion for her house members. The consideration she has shown Issei around his desires to save this girl will never be overlooked. He swears his undying loyalty to the woman. No matter if there comes a day when he begins his own household, he will always in his heart be her loyal pawn. Life continues on with the normal shenanigans that follow Issei's very existence. Aji attends school with the rest of the devils at Kuo and takes residence in Issei's family home without much persuasion needed for his parents. It's bliss for a few weeks before reality once more rears its ugly head. It's not uncommon for Rias to come visit Issei and stay the night with him, but this time she wants more than to just sleep with one another. Issei becomes confused by her push to advance the relationship, but everything's made clear by the Queen of Lucifer himself. Rias' father has organized a marriage to help stimulate good relations between the pillar families of the underworld, offering his daughter's hand in marriage to the heir of the Phoenix household, Ryder. He's instructed Rias' brother, Sir Zex, to organize the entire thing. Thus his Queen Graphia has come to collect Rias. The following day at their normal after-school meeting, Rias informs her family that her hand has been offered up against her will. Ryder appears in the club room, mocking the group and fanning his own ego, while Rias continues to press that she will not be taking him as her husband. Queen Graphia offers they settle this with the out Rias' brother had created for his sister if she chose to escape this planned marriage. If her household can win in a raiding game against Ryder, then by the decree of one of the great Satans, she can dissolve their father's marriage agreement. They're given a 2-week period to train before the game, though that may not be enough time to get their 2 newest members up to fighting strength. A raiding game works very similar to the rules of war. Each side fights down to the last man or until the king surrenders. Thus, it's vital to protect the king, but equally as important to make power moves with them. After the Great War, these games became the leading method to solve disputes if diplomacy fell through, allowing violence to be used without the danger of harming innocent lives. And even those within the game, while injured, are often pulled out before serious injury. But given the game is not decided just by skill, but by sheer ability and power, Rias' house is at a clear disadvantage, currently lacking a full house compared to Ryder's complete set. To win, they must play very tactfully. The goal of the 10-day training camp isn't to get their power up. That would take much more time than currently available. Instead, the goal is to hone their current skills and abilities, particularly Issei's, as the roof for his power has yet to be discovered. They teach him how to manipulate magic, and he discovers his ability to launch raw energy from his gauntlet. With that, it's decided Issei will be their trump card, vital in taking Ryder, who undermines the boy, by surprise. And though this would be enough of a skill for him to master for now, Issei works in secret on his own creatively driven ability to use in the upcoming battle, an ability born from his dirty mind and soul. It's debut to put a chill down any woman's spine. The 10 days of training come to a close, and the battlefield is prepared, a perfect render of Kuo Academy, chosen for the game. Everything goes per Rias' plan. Kiba lures 3 pieces to the woods and defeats them. Koneko and Issei take on a rook and 3 pawns, taking the upper hand with Issei's newest ability, Dress Break, that leaves his opponents stunned, being rendered naked and giving them a free opening to strike. But this is where their luck runs out. Koneko is rendered unable to fight after taking a direct strike from Ryder's queen, sending their front line into chaos. Alongside Kiba, Issei is able to defeat nearly all remaining pieces, but not without a price. Given their household name Phoenix, these players have access to a potion that can cure any wounds, remove all fatigue, a potion named Phoenix Tears, a vial so powerful there's a limit put upon their usage of 3 per game. Akeno loses to Ryder's queen after she uses such a flask, and Kiba in his exhaustion becomes her next target. Issei has left the final soldier between Ryder and his soon-to-be wife, the Phoenix head ordering his queen to step back. He will deal with both Issei and Rias head-on. Aja is a support player that focuses on healing. In a head-on conflict, she is not much of use. Their defeat was sealed by their sheer disadvantage in numbers, experience, and in lack of such a miracle potion as Phoenix Tears. As penance for opposing her betrothed, Ryder decides to kill her beloved pawn in front of her eyes. Rias pushes for Issei to resign, to be removed from battle, but he refuses to give in to the demands of the prick in front of him. Ryder's anger rises. Rias throws herself in between the Phoenix's flame and Issei's mangled body, resigning from the fight as king to save her devoted pawn's life. The Gremries have lost the game. From the burning flames of his passion awakens the Welsh dragon, pleased with his vassal's desire for strength and headstrong attitude. He formally introduces himself to the young lad. Speaking of the great strength Issei will wake as he grows stronger. In his current state, he can only handle so much of the Red Dragon's powers. To use it to its full ability, he must better himself. But Issei knows he has not the time to train if he's to stop Rias' marriage. He begs the dragon to give him a way to harness a fraction of its power, at least enough to stop Ryder. The Red Dragon knows of a way, though it isn't without a cost. Issei must give up a hand to the dragon in order for him to bear the strength of the Emperor for a mere 10 seconds. That is the most he can hope to muster in his current physical ability, but it may just prove to be enough. Issei has a wedding to crash, and it just so happens Lucifer himself desires to assist. Rias' brother sends his queen to escort Issei to the wedding party, a gift of entertainment to the soon-to-be married. Ryder's ego may be the size of a small moon, yet this makes him highly predictable and vulnerable to challenges to his power, often rushing in headstrong without so much of a thought to the larger scheme. Per Sir Zex Lucifer's idea, the two will settle their grievances in a small bout, the winner allowed to decide Rias' fate in marriage. The duelists face off outside the main building, Issei activating the Welsh Dragon Emperor's signature form, the Bounce Breaker, Red Dragon Scale Mail, the peak of any sacred gear's form. When the gear and user's emotions intersect, it creates a power that exists outside the normal laws of reality. The boy's physical state exceeds that which they once were dramatically. He's much more than just a match for Ryder. He's become his judge and executioner. Using the dragon's body to its full strengths, Issei boosts the effect of holy water, dumping loads of it upon Ryder's face, hitting him with a mean cross containing a crucifix within. While the man's body may be immortal, constantly regenerating like that of a phoenix, there's only so much his magic can do to heal the scars left mentally. The damage and pain caused by holy water can't be erased from his mind. He's lost in anguish. Issei has claimed victory, even in the face of his bounce breaker running short in the fight. His wits won him the victory here today. With that, he's transported along with the Gremory household to flee the castle while Sir Zex deals with the diplomatic fallout. It's clear with the escaped griffin waiting in this garden that whether Issei won, Rias' brother was going to do anything to avoid his sister marrying someone she wishes not to. But thanks to Issei's effort, the political blowback will be minimal. Rias, along with Issei, fly off atop the griffin. Moved by the sheer devotion of the boy, she shares with him her first kiss as they fly beneath the moonlit sky. Arriving back to Earth, Rias states she'll be moving in with Issei as well, much to Asia's disdain, now having direct competition for Issei's attention. The Hyodo parents are more than happy to welcome another girl into their home, and all would seem to be resolved. That is, if the Gremory member's past didn't rear its head. The trauma of Kiba's upbringing comes to haunt him, as the remnants of the Holy Sword Project, the people that killed his fellow lab rats, have shown themselves to still be active. Kiba is led on a quest for vengeance, to bring peace to the souls of the fallen. He'll do anything to slaughter Valper, the man behind the slaughter. It is said the holy sword known as Excalibur was shattered in the Great War, its fragments scattered across the realm, falling into the hands of various users, some good, others not so much. 7 of these swords are believed to exist, only 3 currently under the control of heaven, 3 others stolen by unknown forces. Kiba's not the only one seeking the remains of the failed experiment. Saint Michael has sent out his own servants to round up the stolen swords of Excalibur, the 2 wielders under their discipline, perfect for the job. Kiba, however, is the first to run into one of the stolen holy swords. Priest Freed, the man who escaped the chapel during the fallen angel incident, has returned to roam the streets of this town, killing those which he feels deserving. Kiba challenges the priest, overpowering him in an ability, but Freed once more uses escape tactics to avoid being killed off just yet. Kiba is left to wallow in his own self-pity, as rain leaves puddles on the concrete streets. Maybe flying solo wasn't in his best interest. The knight's unknown whereabouts are a cause for concern, though they are no surprise to the house master. Rias knew Kiba's past would be a vulnerability in the boy's character. Having never found peace with it, it's always lurked within him, haunted his every living moment. Survivor's guilt is a hell of a thing. It's not easy to shake the feeling someone else should have been the one to live. Entering through the doors of the club are 2 servants to the church, Zenobia and Irina, devout believers in God who know not of his death. That is a well-kept secret was in heaven. They look down upon the devils, believing them to be without strong character and resolve. They throw shade at Agia, calling her a heretic, despite the church being the ones to abandon her. Enraged, Issei challenges the two to a battle, backed by the surprising return of Kiba, who too holds bitter anger towards the church for not realizing the crimes against humanity being committed under their nose. The fight goes about as good as you would expect, with one member still very inexperienced in battle, and the other blinded by rage, incapable of seeing reason. They fight well, but lose to the servants of the church. Kiba once more moves to leave his friends in the dark. Rie is attempting to stop him from going down a path that will lead to his own demise, but her words fall on deaf ears. He cannot forgo his trauma. Issei, Kaneko, and Agia aim to assist Kiba in some way and bring him back to the light, but this would be actively disobeying their master's direct orders to stay out of the Angels' business. Though with their friend's fate on the line, they're more than willing to commit insubordination. With the help of Sea-Tree House's pawn Saji and the cooperation of the church servants Zenovia and Irina, they track down Kiba and form a deal to find and kill Valper together. After all, they're after the same thing. The more of them there are, the better chance they have at succeeding. They track down Valper, who has aligned himself with Freed, though they are unsuccessful in finishing the fight here. The alliance is then divided, with Zenovia, Kiba, and Irina chasing after Freed, while the others are left to pay for going against their master's word. Rias is light with the punishment given. She understands why they were pushed to assist Kiba, and what they've unearthed is nothing short of game-changing. With the knowledge Valper and Freed have aligned with the Fallen Angel faction, acting similar to Yuma's group, without the approval of governing Commander Azazel. This has become a threat to Devil Kind and worthy of their involvement, though it would seem they don't need to search for the conflict, as it comes knocking once again at their doorstep. Kuo Academy once more turns into a battleground. Faced with peace, Kokabeel believes such an idea was below the fallen angels. To him, his kind was far superior to the devils or the angels. Had Azazel not agreed to the peace negotiations, they could have stomped out the pure angels. Yet Kokabeel's pleas for bloodshed were ignored, and peace came. But now he will overwrite all that Azazel has achieved. With the stolen Excaliburs, he'll have Valper launch off a great amount of energy, rendering this town ash, forcing the devils to make a play against the fallen, and with the death of a great saint and sister in her peerage, incite the collapse of peace. Gremory House makes their move against the former fallen general, but his might is overpowering, his battle experience longer than the time they've been alive. He mocks them from his throne, pitying their weakness. With the emissions of great energy from the school, Kiba was drawn to the area, met with the man of his past. He launches blow after blow, but it's met with heavy resistance. Valper had ripped the genes from the test subjects who had the ability to wield holy blades, crystallizing their essence in a stone so that he could finally realize his dream of smiting his foes with the remnants of Excalibur. Pushed to his absolute limit, Kiba's sacred gear aligns with his strong passion to avenge those that have fallen. The souls of his comrades take his side, pushing him forward. His blade transforms to one bolt of light and darkness, a balance breaker that takes the name Sword of Betrayal. Kiba defeats Valper's assistant Freed, but before he can deliver judgment to the priest that caused him so much anguish, Kokabeel strikes the man down, becoming interested in the new developments occurring on the battlefield. From violence and desperation comes evolution and opportunity. He wishes to bring out the true abilities of these devils. He gets up from his chair and drops to the ground below. Zenovia takes Kiba's side, wielding the holy blade of Durandal, and in unison they attack the fallen angel. Their strength alone is only enough to scratch the man, and in annoyance he admits to the servant of the church that despite the strength she uses to serve heaven, her god is already dead. She has been praying to a being that no longer hears her pleas. The Gremory House is left in shock as well, uncertain what to make of this revelation. That is, everyone except for Issei. Disinterested in the fate of God, Issei takes point, planting himself between Kokabeel and the future of war he so desperately wants to bring about. He asserts his role to defend the king of his household, and with both passion and lust flowing through him, his sacred gear once more evolves into a grander gauntlet. Kokabeel becomes interested in the boy's ambition when the seals surrounding the school crumbles. From the sky comes the White Dragon Emperor Valley, asked as a favor for the Governor General Azazel to detain Kokabeel for his crimes. With ease he eliminates the threat, his attention turning to his sworn rival. The Red Dragon Emperor stands before him, but as fate would have it, their battle will not be today. Valley senses Issei is not strong enough to make for an interesting fight, and so Drake and Albion vow to settle their feud another time. With the knowledge that God has died, Zenobia is excommunicated from the church, the possibility she could leak this information, too dangerous to let her stay within the clergy, and so she decides to give her sword to another. She becomes the Grimoire House's second knight. Edina returns to HQ alone, believing Zenobia has betrayed her for the devils, unaware of her banishment. As for her to know of God's death, would lead to her dismissal as well. Issei becomes aware that his one reoccurring client within the devil contract business has actually been Azazel the entire time. He had no malicious motives getting close to Issei. He was just interested in the boy and his powers. Additionally, Issei helped him keep tabs on Kokabio. Unable to act directly, due to his status in town may be seen as a threat, he sent Valley to act on his behalf. He tells Issei to grow stronger, for at his current state, if Valley did not step in, he would have surely died alongside his comrades. The two will meet again soon. With all that has happened, a leaders' summit has been called between the three factions, and its location will be none other than Kubo Academy. Leading up to the summit, Sir Zex has decided Rias to be ready to learn how to help Gasper, her bishop that has been a shut-in for the past several years or so, to come out from his hiding hole. Given his aversion to people and lack of control over his very dangerous power, helping this femboy master freezing time will not be a simple task. Yet somehow, such a duty falls on the pea-brained Issei, who quickly bonds with Gasper as a fellow man, and together, they're able to miraculously make progress. As the leaders begin to gather in town, Akeno is tasked with taking Issei to meet Saint Michael, who has asked to speak with him in his presence. The Archangel presents Issei with the holy sword Ascalon, the Dragon Slayer, as a gift to stimulate good relations between devil and angel. He hopes, given Issei's relatively weak ability, this may help him gain an edge against any enemy that may attempt to threaten peace. Michael notes how it was only with the red and white dragon's ferocious battle that the three-faction war was stopped. Without that break in the fighting, there's no telling when they would have been able to come to their senses and see the effect their war had on their kind. Issei takes the gift with gratitude, and Michael takes his leave, though there is something Akeno wants to speak to Issei about. As her feelings towards the boy become more complex, Akeno wishes to share her true self with Issei, showing him her wings not that of a devil, but also that of a fallen angel. With all that the fallen have done to Issei, she was worried he would hate her for sharing the same wings as them. But given Issei's personality, he does not see the issue. A handful of bad actors doesn't make an entire race bad. Relieved that she's not hated, Akeno embraces the boy, much to Rias' disdain. The number of romantic competitors continues to rise. Given their involvement in the defeat of Kokabio and his priest agents, the Grimoire household has been asked to attend this summit, as has the Dragon Emperor Valley and Idina alongside Saint Michael. The Sea Tree House Great Saint and Leviathan sits alongside Lucifer. Countless soldiers from each of the factions line the skies outside. The weight of the summit slowly becomes clear. The devils pull no punches, questioning Azazel on Kokabio's actions. He makes clear he had no clue what the man had planned, though he had been keeping an eye on him under the impression he had something he was hiding. Regardless, he insists that they just make peace already, as no one here is interested in making a big fuss over something that was solved in the end. Their conversation is quickly interrupted by the freezing of all time around the academy. It would seem a group of cult leaders have raided the building and seized Gasper, forcing him to use his ability. The effect is negated for those of superior strength, those who wield bounce breakers, and the older, higher class faction leaders, unaffected by time. In irony, given their earlier statement to Azazel, the one behind the attack is a descendant of the old great saint in Leviathan, similar to Kokabio, against the idea of peace. Her goal is to abolish the current great saintins and seize the throne she rightfully believes is hers by blood. She is, however, in way over her head, and falls at the hand of Azazel himself, using a sacred gear he had collected, Fallen Dragon, to take care of her in under a minute. As the lower soldiers are quickly dispersed, it would seem as if the ambush was half-assed. But as Valley comes to the battlefield, it's clear the man used this group as cannon fodder to set the stage for a battle he desires against the Red Dragon Emperor. Valley's descent becomes public knowledge, his father being one of the 4 former great saintins, which would normally remove the chance for him to be born with one of the great dragons. but due to his mother being human, his very existence lives between the lines of the laws that decide an emperor. Regardless, his blood, both containing the vanishing dragon and old Sainton blood, makes him likely the most powerful emperor to ever be. A cruel twist of fate for Issei, the weakest emperor of all time. In an attempt to bring out Issei's potential, Valley threatens the livelihood of his family and friends, forcing him into a skirmish to decide once and for all the king of the dragons. Entering into Bounce Breaker, Issei takes to the sky, easily being overpowered by Valley. He's able, with a sword gifted to him by Michael, rip a chunk from Valley's armor, and in desperation, absorb the power that the vanishing dragon supplies. Drake is pleased with his emperor's tenacity, an act before thinking attitude. With her shared will, they're successful in committing what many would see as an act defying the laws of their world. Issei wields both the boosting power of Drake, the Welsh dragon, along with Albion's ability to divide his enemy's strength. Issei's gamble may have cost him a few decades off his lifespan, but for the power now at his disposal, it was more than worth the risk. Seeing the extent Issei will go to defeat him, Valley takes his own gamble, attempting to divide the dimension they exist in altogether, in turn creating a black hole where they stand. If he's successful, everyone here will likely die, so Azazel uses Issei's lust to their advantage, informing him that Valley's division will reduce the size of Rias's bosom tenfold. Deep down, the boy is still what he was at the beginning of this story, a man with unchecked hormones. His power level increases exponentially, and he surpasses Valley in strength, delivering blow after blow, ripping the vanishing dragon from the sky. At this point, he's forced to consider bringing out his trump card if he's the best Issei. It may just be the time to use the ultimate form of the Dragon Emperors, Juggernaut Drive. But Son Goku himself breaks through the dimensional fabric of this world, here to collect the Emperor and take him back to their faction, Chaos Brigade. Their fight is cut short. We'll have to finish this another day. With his departure, things wrap up for the leaders' summit, though it may not have went the way anyone had planned for it. Nonetheless, it ended the same, if not better. With the threat of the opposing faction Chaos Brigade, a mix of strong gods and immortals with different backgrounds, it may be best to pursue not only peace between the three factions, but a coalition of similar power to Chaos. Time will tell how things play out. For now, though, the Gremory house lives to fight another day. Lucifer requests Azazel to oversee his sister's house members as a mentor, assisting them in learning to hone and control their sacred gears and bounce breakers. Given his interest in researching these tools, this is more than a favorable ask from the great Sainton. As a way to help stimulate growth from Issei, given his power always seems to increase in the presence of women, all of the female house members move into Issei's home, which undergoes insane construction, transforming this small family home into a luxury mansion, including oversized rooms, the greatest bidets, as well as a fully stocked pantry of gamer subs, including one of my all-time favorites, the fruity summer flavor of Goof Juice. Though I've heard Issei is more of an anime thigh guy, and whenever they restock, they have 10% off with code SOCKSENSEI, which can be found in the description. All of this leads up to summer break, where the group will undergo training in hell, while the higher-ups meet regarding the Chaos faction. The rising threat of chaos is met by the alliance between the three factions, along with the creation of a coalition between mythologies. Norse, Greek, Roman, you name it, they're coming together. There are those within each of these groups against the alliance, those even joining the ranks of chaos and defiance, but that's an unavoidable complication. The Gremory crew each goes through selective training, honing their individual skills. Issei's more of a survival game than a training experience. The reincarnated dragon devil Tannen becomes Issei's training partner, chasing him through the forest until he can awaken Bounce Breaker on command. The training for the members continues up to the day set for the high nobles of the factions to make a diplomatic deal with Odin on aligning against the Chaos Brigade. The negotiations are cut rather short by an invasion of chaos, kingpinned by Loki himself to stop the signing of the treaty. Meanwhile, Issei has found himself wrapped in a reunion of sisters. Koneko's older sister, Kuroka, has aligned herself with Chaos and come to retrieve her. Sensing Koneko's fear of her sister and desire to stay with the family she made here, Issei is able to summon his Bounce Breaker in order to protect the Nekomata. He fends off Kuroka long enough for Loki to be banished from the halls in the castle, forcing the Black Cat to retreat before more powerful forces lend Issei their aid. Odin takes full responsibility for the actions of his son and agrees to the terms of the alliance. The first order of their new federation will be to defeat Loki, who has been banished to a dimension for the time being. Set to break free from the imprisonment, within 24 hours. A strike team is created to drop in and deal with him before the time ends. The vanguard includes 9 devil members from the Gremmery and Seatree, along with Roswise the Valkyrie, an arena on behalf of the angels. They're given 3 vials of Phoenix Tears, the most they could gather on short notice, and instructed to hold out until the arrival of Mjolnir. Once the hammer is delivered, they are to use it to smite Loki and end his reign of mischief. Entering into the zone, they're immediately met with opposition. Fenrir, his 2 sons, and a clone of Midgardsummer attack them. It's all they can do to hold their own against Loki and his forces, but they're unable to find any openings to land an attack on the god. Their supply of tears quickly runs thin, their final use in sync with Mjolnir's arrival. Issei rushes to retrieve the mighty hammer of Thor, but he leaves himself open to attack. Fenrir's fangs sink themselves through his scale mail armor. Blood seeps from his wounds, too much even for an immortal. Without the tears of a phoenix, and no on-hand medical assistance, he's as good as dead. Enraged, his allies attack the monstrous wolf. Rias makes a vow to avenge her beloved, turning her eyes towards the god of mischief, who smiles at the sight of the girl's fury. The tides of war turn from this sense of desperation and inevitable defeat when a third party takes the undying Fenrir off the battlefield. Kuroka, alongside Arthur, teleport the wolf under the orders of Valley, leaving Loki to his fate against the Vanguard squad. While distracted by the betrayal of his own allies, Rias discovers a vial of tears Issei had on him, a gift from the Phoenix family's youngest, as a token of her appreciation that he spared her older brother. Issei becomes rejuvenated and delivers the final blow, sending Loki to his icy prison in Niflheim. One threat still remains rampant on the battlefield: the serpent clone of the great beast Jormungandr. As it races to attack the survivors, the great devil Cyborg slays it with one strike of his fist. The second strike team has finally arrived, though it seems their help was not all that needed. Curious of who defeated the great god of the north, Cyborg's attention turns to the Red Dragon Emperor. He tells the boy he'd love to fight him on the field of a raiding game one day, for the title of the strongest devil, seeing him as an equal for the deed he did here today. Issei and him form a friendship fueled by rivalry. Yet another opponent of top-class strength awaits his ascent. With summer break coming to a close, so is their training in hell. The Gremmery house returns to Earth, hopefully for once able to attend a semester without the school being attacked by a terrorist faction. With the help of Issei, Akeno is able to reconcile with her past, as well as her fallen angel father, who had distanced himself from the girl after she claimed to hate his very being. Akeno realizes with Issei's help that it isn't her father's fault her mother died, and he was equally as broken after the events. Had he made it back just a little quicker, he could have saved both their lives, but he'll have to live with that failure, though he succeeded in saving their daughter. Akeno makes her father a lunchbox as a bridge for their relationship, as he sits down on the train home, unwrapping the meal, commenting on the similarities of his wife's cooking. As a new semester starts, the desire for it to be normal becomes smothered fairly quickly. The devil Diodora comes to visit Asia and claim his love and desire for her to marry him and join his house. He was in fact the devil she healed that got her banished from the church, a truth both troubling, yet something that goes, for the most part, under everyone's radar. Issei is fairly against the idea of Asia marrying, not wanting another to come in and break their house up. Asia assures him she won't be going anywhere, and Rias takes it upon herself to tell the devil to back off from the advancements. Coincidentally, as it would happen to be, in the upcoming raiding game tournament that will put young devil families up against each other in order to test the abilities of the next generation, their first opponent is none other than Diodora. It seems this conflict will soon be resolved, only it's a bit more complicated than first imagined. Both Valley and Kuroka go out of their way to warn Issei of the threat that Diodora poses, not giving him detailed information, leaving that up to him to ponder. Using that tip-off, Azazel begins to look into Diodora's past and realizes something rather shady. There's a large possibility the boy has aligned himself with the Old Satan faction, the group of devils that believe the war should not have ended, and those in the great Satan seats should be blood relatives of the originals. They despise the new direction of their kind, and thus, as the raiding game match begins, Diodora lays a trap for the Gremmery house, launching an ambush of Old Satan-aligned soldiers, kidnapping Agia for his own twisted desires. Anticipating this move, Azazel sends in a strike team led by Odin to assist the Gremmeries while he leads the main force against the larger Old Satan attack. The Grimmery House moves to confront Diodora in the throne room and rescue Asia. Faced with a devil's peerage which consists solely of holy maidens and nuns, he's personally manipulated and kidnapped, all to satisfy a twisted fantasy of his. He had attempted to nab Asia a long time ago, but due to the level of security around her, he was forced to play the long game, wait until the proper moment to strike. But then Issei and the Grimmery showed up, so he'd have to wait till now to steal her. Dio laughs as he ponders what he'll do to her, causing Issei to lose his temper and launch a flurry of attacks against the devil who undermined his power, believing himself both genetically and physically superior to the likes of him. But here now, he's tossed around like a ragdoll, beaten to submission, and left crying like a bitch. He shows restraint in not killing the devil, despite the vulgar ideas that escape his lips. He ignores him and frees his friend. Azuya asks for a moment to show her thanks for being saved, but as she kneels down to pray, she becomes absorbed into a great light, vanishing from existence itself. Shalba, direct descendant of the great saint and lord Beelzebub, disgusted by the sight of a devil praying, sent her to the dimensional gap where she'll rot away in a land where time knows no meaning. He turns to Diodora, annoyed by the boy's constant babbling, vaporizing him too from existence. Issei meanwhile is unable to come to terms with this reality, wandering blindly, calling for Asia to come out from hiding. Shalba puts down the Red Dragon Emperor, calling Asia filth, likely to have expired by now. The very words call anger back to the forefront of the boy's mind. He draws from these dark emotions, uses them as fuel to stand against the devil in front of him. Once more, as his emotions align with his sacred gear, Issei activates a new level of power, the power Valley spoke of during their battle. Juggernaut Drive, a primal force of nature that exists for one purpose, to wipe out one's enemies. With ease, he vaporizes the man known as Shalba, but in a rage from his own grief, he's unable to control his form. He's left trapped in this body of torment, waging destruction over everything and all, friend or foe. Valley's squad had come to oversee the conflict, hoping to watch the old Sainton faction burn, displeased with their superiority complex, part of the reason they had leaked information on Diodora to Issei. There was also the goal of confirming the whereabouts of Great Red, the dimensional traveling dragon, but while exploring the realm between realms they had found Asia, and in good faith, came to return her to her house. What Valley didn't expect to find here was Issei, lost in a failed Juggernaut Drive form. Influenced by his emotions, he activated the power before his body was strong enough to control it. Per the request of Rias, he makes an effort to control Issei, while Rias attempts to get through to him and tell him Asia is safe. He's able, through willpower, to break free from his trauma and return to them, owing Valley a favor for his help. The White Dragon Emperor points his attention to the sky, as Great Red appears flowing through the space only but for a moment. Valley makes clear his desire to one day defeat the monstrous beast. Issei, a necessary opponent to best along his journey. They make a pact to settle their battle of fate one day, before Issei passes out from the physical toll of the Juggernaut Drive. Things return to the status quo in Kuo. Valley goes AWOL from the Chaos Brigade after refusing to become their leader, prompting one of the other inner fractions to step up to the plate, the Hero Faction. A group with the sole motto, kill that which is evil. Fallen angels, devils, and dragons falling into this category. They loathe the Angels' alliance with the two other factions. Thus, they take it upon themselves to eliminate such threats. They turn their eyes once more to the Grimmery family, a group consisting of all three of the evils they intend to destroy. Grimmery House enjoys a few weeks of peace before the second year's school trip to Kyoto, an event only a week before the next tournament match of the Raiding Games. Their opponent, none other than Cyrog the Strong, who requests Issei exchange a few blows against him in a friendly sparring match. It becomes clear their levels of strength, while initially seeming to be greatly different, are rather close when Issei becomes serious. Cyrog makes clear to Issei that he must not hold back against him when it comes time. It would be a great dishonor to their friendship if he was to half-ass this game. They agree to put all at stake, and the two part ways, as Issei travels to Kyoto, faced with yet another ambush preventing him from having a normal high school experience. As a way of extending a welcome to the Grimmery family, the Hero Faction leader Cao Cao informs Issei of their capture of the yokai leader Yasaka, the nine-tailed fox, for an experiment to test how far as mere humans they can go when faced against gods and the like. They will bring out the inner demon in this fox and kill it as it lays waste to the surrounding area. Issei too looks to be an opponent of interest, though their time here today is rather short. He tells Issei to make his way to Nijo Castle if he wishes to free the yokai leader. before taking his leave as two valley-aligned individuals come to divert the hero forces, delivering the message, "Stay out of Valley's way." Despite knowing they're walking into a trap, having aligned themselves with the yokai, this isn't a fight they can shy away from. The Gremmery members prepare to take on the force that by all means is stronger and more experienced than they are. They divide their forces to take on their opponents. Issei's mark Cao Cao himself. With the power of his comrades at his side, he's able to fend off the hero long enough for the mythological coalition reserves to arrive. Sun Wukong, the ancient Buddha of Chinese myth, comes to Issei's side. Knowing his strength is no match against Wukong, Cao Cao retreats, being injured by Issei on his way out, causing him to make a vow to end his life one day once he succeeds Valley in strength. The crisis is averted for the time being, the Yokai Nine Tails saved, and another faction joins the coalition against the Chaos Brigade. The Gremmery members enjoy what remains of the Kyoto trip, before returning back to Kuo to prepare for the final act of the raiding game tourney, their battle against the famed strongest devil of their generation. The sheer publicity around the upcoming match against the Gremmery and Bales is abnormal for such young families. With so many heavy hitters set to battle for the title of the strongest in their generation, even gods like Hades have flown in to watch the bout. Sai's strength and desire to become strongest is drawn from a vow he made to his mother before disease befell her. Having been banished by his father alongside his mother for not inheriting the family's power, Sai, who was once seen as the weakest of all devils, trained his body to the edge and then some. He is stronger than any, even without magic. He had wished to keep his past and his mother's condition a secret from Issei, not wanting the boy to hold out in sympathy against him in the upcoming fight. But he's come alongside Rias today, the girl believing Issei may be able to contact Misla from her coma. Before Sai leaves, he makes Issei vow he won't pull punches on the battlefield in light of his harsh past. Issei states he'd never do something so pitiful. The next time they meet, they'll be opponents at war. Upstairs, Issei attempts to use his power to speak to the inner hearts of women to wake Misla, but for the moment it seems to fail to accomplish anything. They leave the homestead to make final tactical preparations before traveling to the Agada's Thunderdome for the Day of Infamy. To make things more interesting for the masses gathered here today, the game has been decided to be group battles, a pair of dice deciding how strong each of their forces can be for a given battle. A handicap that heavily benefits the Gremmeries. A normal head-to-head would make things difficult with Sai's strength level. He would run through their weaker units with ease. The first round is decided to be knight against knight, Kiba taking the first victory, but not without using one of their trump cards. To defeat the man, he had to use his bounce breaker, Sai now fully aware of one of their abilities. Ross-wise, the Valkyrie has stand-in for Rias' second rook, alongside Koneko take on a knight and rook in the second round, able to defeat their opponent, though through a last-ditch attempt to inflict some form of damage on their Gremmery house, able to wound Koneko and remove her from battle. In the third round, Sai attempts a gamble to test the Red Dragon's resolve. He publicly chooses his bishop, whom he says can defeat Issei. Rias decides to take this bait and send her pawn out. On the battleground, the woman attempts to seduce Issei, but in the end is unsuccessful, the round ending in her defeat. The following round is carried by Gasper against the Bale family rook and bishop. His resolve is able to create an opening for Zenobia, though he is retired after obtaining heavy damage. The fifth round becomes a battle between queens, Akeno losing to an opponent that is her perfect counter, Bale's queen capable of redirecting her every attack. Her decision to go out was not in vain, saving their forces for the next, most pivotal round in securing their victory. As the dice roll to decide the sixth round's power scale, a perfect 12 appears on screen, meaning Psydog can finally enter battle. Issei stands up, knowing he's the only one who could hope to defeat the monster of a man, but Kiba stops him. Zenobia, Ross, and him wish to wear down Sai for his fight against Rias and Issei. They know this battle will end with their defeat, but it won't be in vain. As they enter the field following the warrior's code, Sai vows not to hold back against these three. Their differences in strength are obvious. The two knights and rook hold no chance in taking down the Bale King, but what they lack in physical strength they make up for in craftiness. Using their numbers against him, they're able to catch him off guard, slicing his right arm from his body. Each family is allowed one vial of Phoenix Tears in this game, and they've been able to force the man to use his before the main event. They've done their job, they can accept their defeat, as Sai's rage boosts his ability tenfold. The trio is defeated. Watching his friends take such brutal blows on his behalf begins to pack negative emotions in Issei. As the dice roll a 9 and the Bale Queen once more enters the battleground, Issei goes forth to finish this round as quick as it begins. He was supposed to hold his ability to transfer promotions to his scale mail for the conflict against Sai, but his emotions make him act rashly, forcing Sai to retire the queen before Issei nearly kills her. With only Sai and his pawn remaining, he presents the option to move to the final event, skipping the boredom that would come of the continued dice game, and fight Rias and her remaining 2 head on. Rias agrees to this challenge, and they take to the field. The fight everyone was waiting for. The King of Bale versus the Pawn of Gremory. There's no mistake this fight will live on in the hearts of all here present, even after the victor is decided. The warriors waste no time with words, launching themselves at their opponent. On the sidelines, the Pawn of Bale reveals itself to be the lion of Greek legend, Regulus Nemea. The very lion Hercules wrestled as part of his labors, had been sealed within a sacred gear, and upon its master's death, had slaughtered those that killed him, only to be found by Sai, and seeing his strength and ambition, the beast swore loyalty to his side. Will Rias be strong enough against this monster? That's something Issei has neither the time nor ability to deduce. His mind must solely focus on the combatant in front of him, if he wants to survive. Slowly, Issei walks Sai into a corner, the man still recovering from his fight earlier where he lost his arm. He's saved by the Lion of Myth, who has worn down Rias to the point that Issei must use their vial of phoenix tears, lest he want to watch her die. Sai thinks this is a low play, but he acknowledges where the lion's heart lied, and doing something that he believed necessary. He accepts this play, Issei using their tears. As the calm before the storm sets in, Regulus begs Sai to don him and use his full strength to take the title of the underworld's strongest. The man is hesitant, having vowed to only do such a thing if his home was in danger. But the Red Dragon insists. He had promised Sai he would not hold back. He expects the man to do the same. With that, the Bale King calls to the lion to respond to his rage and vesture, transform into a shield that will propel him to new heights. Coated in golden alloy, a set of armor of his own, the two once more re-engage. But it's all too obvious Sai's upgrade has put him in a different league. If Issei wishes to defeat him, he must take the gamble here and now, master the ability of Juggernaut Drive, searching his soul, coming in contact with the dozens of other emperors who had perished before him. Their voices tempt him to once more transform as he did against Shalba, dark emotions clouding his mind, taking over his reason. But with the help of his friends, his love for Rias, and the shard of Albion he had merged with, he's able to control the drive and use it to forge a different path, not led by rage and despair. Issei transforms into the true Crimson Dragon Emperor, adding a Cardinal Crimson promotion to the scale mail. With new might, he launches himself back towards Bale, trading blow against blow in a brawl of strength and resilience. How many punches, with the force behind them to move mountains and alter Earth's rotation, can these men take? That is the very question that will decide this battle. Sai's legs begin to give out amidst the exchange of fists, but Issei reaches his breaking point as well. His body has not adapted to this new form. It can only hold it for so long. The Red Dragon creates an opening to blast Bale with the force of a sun, leaving the lion-donned king in a crater, gravely wounded. But his mother's spirit speaks to him, telling him to rise, to stand up against those that once questioned his might, that thought of him as inept, incapable of one day leading. She tells her son to make his dreams come true as he emerges from the crater and bellows a roar from deep within his soul. They continue on like this, punch after punch, blood and teeth flying from the place they stand, neither willing to give up their ambitions. It's crystal clear this isn't a contest about who wants it more. These two are equal in that matter. It's merely a contest on who can remain conscious the longest, who can starve off their fatigue. And it would seem, as Issei's armor gives out, though he had already decided to continue to ball his fist and continue this fight, the Lion of Myth begs the Emperor to stop. Sai has been unconscious for some time now. His resolve had taken on a mind of its own and propelled him forward into battle despite. The Bale King has lost. Issei embraces him, moved to tears at the man's ambition. In the recovery room, Sai and Issei exchange words of respect. Lucifer pays Issei a visit to tell him there's talks of promoting him to a mid-class devil, a promotion he accepts as a gift, and Sai tells Issei to go speak to Rias of his love for her. Afraid she'll reject him, he's unsure, but Sai tells the boy he'll comfort him if it comes to it. He returns to Earth, confessing to the president in their clubroom, and despite his fears, the girl breaks down in joy, having been waiting for Issei to say he loved her for such a long time. They kiss, for the first time, as a couple. The fallout awaiting the Bale House leader is that many of the high-class devils have pulled out their support after his loss, but given his sheer strength and popularity, it'll be no time before he finds others that will support him. In better news, Sai's mother did indeed wake up after Issei's visit, though it was delayed. She speaks of watching her son grow as if by his side this entire time. The boy breaks down, embracing his mother, happy to have his only family return to him. As Azazel reflects on the sheer amount of lives the Red Dragon Emperor has touched, how many friends he's grown alongside, each supporting the other, stronger in his presence. He's truly an enigma. Despite his perversion, deep down he's a good person. The government general reflects on a conversation he had with the god of heaven in Hindu myth, Indra. He speaks of their ongoing problem with the Chaos Brigade and their factions. Despite this victory celebration after such a high-stakes game, danger still lurks in the horizon for their kind. Is the Red Dragon key to defeating their enemies? Time will tell, as Azazel walks through the dark storm, taking note of the beauty in this garden. Despite what I've made you think, this story, though interesting, a tad unique, and full of emotional conflict, is a lot more ecchi than I made it seem. Issei is called the Boob Dragon Emperor, can telepathically speak to boobs, and his immense strength is drawn from his love for them. Some may say I tricked you by admitting such a pivotal gag to the anime. Others will simply acknowledge the fact I just told you a really good story, without relying on the show's one gimmick. Despite all the nudity actually found in the anime, underneath the fan service is a very interesting narrative, and I believe I brought that forward here today. So however you may feel about the actual series, I think we can all appreciate the care the writers had in making something that was actually good in plot. And maybe one day they'll continue to animate the tale of Issei the Red Dragon Emperor. But for now, it remains over 19 volumes behind. Maybe that's for the best. We left off on a high note, a fight of the ages between a dragon's tenacity and a lion's determination. Though I always believe there will be room for more DXD. In time, we shall see.